Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Grieco, here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we're going to be talking about Little Inferno, a little inferno just for me, and also for Peter, little large inferno, Busby.
Nice. That's a good pick for today. What's going on, everybody? This was my pick for this week, and I think it fits in with the direction my picks have been going recently. So I think we'll enjoy discussing it. I'm actually pretty happy with my fact for this podcast. I think it's a pretty cool one. So this comes from a 2010 article called The Global Expansion of a Single Ant Supercolony. That's the title of the article. And it's about, it's about Argentine ants. And the cool thing about Argentine ants is they can form these massive supercolonies in which territorial behavior and intra-specific aggression, so like aggression between individual colonies, are absent. So they're basically one huge colony made up of multiple smaller queens and colonies and such. Here's the highlight, though. So they're describing sort of super colonies they've found, right?
Yep.
These studies have revealed that super colonies can extend across large geographic distances. In New Zealand and California, for example, super colonies span at least 700 and 900 kilometers, respectively. And the main European super colony extends for more than 4,000 kilometers through Spain, Portugal, France, and Italy. So these things are taking over. That was the one about the European colony. That's circa 2002. So a little bit old on that data, but I imagine it's still going relatively strong.
So what you're saying to me is not only are there many, many ants, they're learning to work together.
Yes, I'm saying we've only survived this long because of the charity of the ants.
Because they allow
and also because they don't know how to swim yet.
But you just wait.
Soon.
Well, so
It's coming.
Some ants will form like big ant balls.
Yeah, they make rafts.
Yeah,
Are
and
you
just sort of
serious?
let the ones at the bottom drown, and then the ones on top live.
How do the ones on the bottom feel about that?
I don't think they probably don't think about it. They're just like,
For
okay,
the greater good.
yeah,
Oh,
on the
okay.
bottom.
So they work together far better than humans.
Oh, much better.
Very clearly.
They'll kill us all one day.
This isn't a dispute. And that other voice you hear is Noel, the medium inferno, Grieco.
Thanks.
I'm the little inferno in this.
Is it because it's just for you, Gino?
Because it's just for me.
Okay.
Welcome to the show again. Filling in for Billy, who is on hiatus for a while. Unclear how long, but in the interim, Noel will be filling in. Thank you.
Well, he would have.
You are no?
Billy might have liked this game. There was a lot to unlock, but it's not
Yeah.
really his kind of game.
Yeah, he
I
would have
thought you were
denied.
kicking me out for the next few
No.
times.
No.
Just, let's maybe not.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. This is
We'll
an
see how
audition.
this one goes.
This is a very specific audition. All we can be sure of is that were Billy here, most of the messages would have been ignored.
Yeah, he would have. There's no subtext at all in this game.
What do you mean
Okay.
about capitalism? We're just burning toys. We're just burning
It's
memories
all for good fun.
for money. So
Haven't you ever thought, what if I lit my teddy bear on fire?
I have
Now
thought
that
that.
answers the question.
I have thought that, and it's a bad place for my head to go.
All right,
But
so
before-
good thing that you put that out in this game.
Yep. Before we get to that bad place, we have emails
Ooh,
and feedback.
You guys
So-
get emails?
We do.
That's so nice for you.
I know. It's weird.
we're popular.
Sure.
We have a
Damn it.
subset. We have a sub. There's people.
Yeah, we have
You have
a
a few.
small and
Hi,
devoted
people.
following.
I
Don't
thought you
say
were supposed
small.
to be famous by now. Or how many years? What's
Just
your
say devoted.
5-year plan?
Devoted.
2-year
Yeah,
plan?
look.
It's a
Don't worry.
plan.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
We have a devoted following. So
We don't.
if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so by sending a tweet to that Pinguino at that Pinguino. The Deep Listens one, you can use that too at Deep Listens
That
Pod on Twitter.
Pinguino at that Pinguino.
So it's at that Pinguino on Twitter or at
Oh.
Deep Listens Pod on Twitter.
I thought you made your own website.
No.
Pinguino.com.
No, but if
I'm
anyone
good.
takes that domain, they'll be held to pay. deeplistens.libsyn.com. You can hit up our comment sections or deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can sound, or you can go to our YouTube comments, which right now are not a cesspool.
What?
Yeah, it's always a
Is
constant
that what you're
threat.
thriving for?
I mean, I'm glad that it's not. It
Okay,
just
good.
seems like after something gets viewed enough times, it just becomes terrible.
Yeah, it
But
comes
for
with
now, it's good.
scale.
For now,
Okay,
it's good and
gotcha.
full of good questions. So here comes one from John Atwood. He's written in before. Hello again. I feel like you guys brush over some seriously deep topics. Pete, you don't think free will exists? This is from an offhand comment 2 podcasts ago. Unpack that, please. Also, what were you and Billy going on about with substance dualism?
Oh, Jesus. I refuse to even engage with the substance dualism
And
discussion.
here's the rest of the question. Alternatively, if you guys just like to brush over this stuff, is it from time restrictions? Is it out of boredom on your end, as you've spent years discussing these basic ideas? P.S. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. Have Grandin on the podcast, so I'll shut the fuck up about it. Also, he's a legend. His background will add new flavors to the conversation, blah, blah, blah. If I have a vote as a fan and an avid listener, I say Grandin replace Billy until the prodigal son returns. Nope.
Wow.
Wait, his last
Okay.
name's Atwood too? Damn, it's a small world. Hashtag not related. Hashtag Atwoodgate.
All right. Let me address some of John's concerns / questions. I refuse to address the substance dualist question for 2 reasons. 1, nobody really believes in it anymore. And 2, the only reason Billy believes in it is because of his intellectual dishonesty.
Yeah,
He just wants to support these positions that don't actually hold.
I know, but can you just first just explain, because some people were not listening in the 3rd or 4th episode when we talked about substance dualism, when we played, I think it was the Talos Principle, episode 7.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the moment when this all came out, and now this is more than 3 years ago.
All right, SparkNotes version then. Substance dualism is the idea that people are made up of 2 basic things, right? One is our corporeal physical body, and the other one is a non-physical, I don't really want to say metaphysical, but something beyond physical, the mind, the soul, right? Now, the main problem with substance dualism is there's no way to explain how this non-physical mind interacts with the physical body. So what it basically means is you have a mind, but it's not good for anything. It doesn't do anything. So what's the point, really?
That hurts my soul.
Yeah, that's
Get it? Get
that's
it,
the big
guys? His
There's
soul.
a whole bunch of other stuff involved, but even when Descartes came up with this stupid idea, people even at the time were like, no, Descartes, shut the hell up.
You fool.
Get
But-
out.
The important thing to mention here is that Billy likes to use this idea as a cudgel to strip humanity.
I'm sorry, as a what?
As a cudgel.
As a cudgel. A
Did
big
you
club.
find that?
It's a club.
All right, got it. Thank
It's
you.
a fancy way to say a brutish object.
Got it.
Big stick.
It's a big stick. He uses it as a cudgel to beat basically anything that isn't a human. He thinks does not have this soul, and that is the difference that separates us from everything else. And that is why it is okay for us to mistreat and look down upon other things.
Oh, so
Because
he
they
wants
don't
to feel
have-
special.
Pretty
yes,
much.
All
pretty
right.
much. We'll see if Billy actually listens to these podcasts he edits. I suspect not.
Hi,
Just
Billy.
like the big 7-minute gap here.
So about substance dualism, and then just cut to 10 minutes
And then it just
later.
cuts to Billy just speaking.
Just reading Descartes.
Okay, second part of the question.
So the free will issue, I don't have a lot of time. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this, but there's sort of 2 directions to look at free will from. One is sort of the physical question. So like if I'm a materialist, so I think, we don't really have anything outside the physical processes going on in our brains. And I don't really have any external control over these physical processes. There's nothing non-physical that I could say, no, keep that neuron from firing. So if you think free will implies absolute complete control over yourself, then no, we don't have free will. I would define free will a little bit differently. So in that sense, I would say, yes, we do have it. It's just not the kind of thing most people think it is. Now, the second half of that is, so even if we have, well, I don't want to phrase this. So we're necessarily social beings that exist in sort of all these sort of constraints, ideologies, and social systems, and it's the systems the systems themselves that have power in most cases, not the individual. So even from an economic, political, social perspective, we don't really have free will in that sense either, because these social processes have become reified, meaning they've become structures on their own that people can't really affect too much. If you want to know more about those sort of social structures, you can read anybody really from the Frankfurt School. We're going to talk about one of these guys later, Herbert Marcuse, and his book One Dimensional Man. But you could look at a whole bunch of good stuff by Adorno. He's another one. His stuff's a little bit harder, but he's good too. Or you can look at another book called Reproducing Capitalism. I think that's what it's called. It's by Althusser, whatever it's called. You can just look up Althusser and you'll find it. And he talks about those similar sort of structures. So Adorno and Althusser are the guys to look at for this sort of systems theory kind of stuff.
Yep, and if you want to ignore all of these difficulties, just read Walden by Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, where he goes up in the woods and then has his family do his laundry for him.
Yes,
and is
he was
financially supported by his peers, and then talks a good game about being independent and all of the wisdom that can be gained from nature and being separate from society.
Yeah, to hell with Walden. I have no patience for him.
Yeah, Thoreau.
The book, sorry, I found the title. The book I was referring to was On the Reproduction of Capitalism. That's by Althusser.
Great. And so to answer why we just brush over some of this stuff, I feel like we brush over the substance dualism thing because that just leads to a one-sided argument between you and Billy, where Billy is very invested and you could not be more dismissive.
No, completely.
And it just eats up a lot of time. Yep. So that's generally why. Usually, if I know it is not an intractable position, we will go into it. But something like substance dualism, I know Billy's stance on it, and I know he has not budged and will not.
No, because
so
it's not really based on logic.
Yeah, you can't reason someone out of something they didn't reason themselves into.
No.
So,
well, logic is silly if you have a soul above your body. Who needs it?
Fair enough.
My greater meat puppet theory, when I put it out,
Excuse me, what?
The soul is controlling the body through a series of invisible wires,
but
or
of course.
puppet strings, and our body's simply a meat puppet. So pick up that book coming soon, and if you want to get in touch with Joe, please do so. You could sound something like John. So, time to discuss Little Inferno by the Tomorrow Corporation, which is a really good name for a game company.
The future is tomorrow.
Usually Billy would explain what this game is, but Pete, I entrust it to you.
Sure, I can run with it. Luckily, this is a simple one, so I think I can handle it. So you play a nameless protagonist. I don't think he ever gets a name. Yeah. And you're sitting in basically a house. You can't turn, you can't move. It's just a first-person perspective on a fireplace. And this fireplace is the Little Inferno entertainment system. And your job is to burn things in it. You then get money and stamps, and you can use these money and stamps to order more things to burn in it. And eventually you unlock certain combos that'll give you even more money if you burn certain combinations of things together. You have a neighbor whose name escapes me now.
Sugar Plumps.
Really cool. Sugar Plumps. And she sends you letters periodically throughout the game, and you sort of converse with her. You can send her things, and she'll appreciate it. You get more letters back. She'll send you things occasionally as well. And then there are periodic weather reports as well. This world has it's taken a turn for the worse. It's basically a new ice age has descended upon it, and that's why you need these little infernos to keep you warm. And that's basically the large overview. There's one more character, which is the CEO of the company that produces Little Inferno Entertainment System, and she will also send you letters, updates, catalogs as the game progresses. So really it's all about unlocking more and more things to burn in your fireplace.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about it, I think.
The basic gameplay loop, you get a catalog, you get some starter money. You can also burn bugs that descend into your fireplace, and when you burn them, you get money. And then you can use that money to buy things from your catalog. that range from other people's pictures, dolls, toys, food, furniture, and your own pictures. You can burn things, and this will get you more money, which lets you burn more things. So the gameplay loop is pretty simple. There is that slight combo system you mentioned, which generally revolves around a pun of some kind, and throwing two things that are vaguely related into the fire and letting them all burn together. Or three. And the bigger the combo, the more stamps you get for completing it. And there's also a system where you have to kind of wait for things to arrive because everything is mail order. And the stamps allow you to express deliver things. So if you want something very quickly, you can use stamps.
If you can't wait the 60 seconds or 5 seconds it takes to load, then you can use your stamps.
Exactly. And from what I saw, this game does not have like a combo system where you need to keep a fire going or it behooves you to have a fire going continuously or burn a whole bunch of things all at once. You can basically burn things as they come except for the combos. But I feel like the game's feedback loop with the stamps incentivizes you to express deliver things and kind of keep the pace going.
Yeah, and the combos do give you more money, I think, than if you burn each thing individually.
Yeah, and they definitely give you more stamps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that basic gameplay loop, the game would not necessarily hold a lot of interest in the long term, and it's a pretty short game to begin with. It's only about 2 hours. But this game has a lot going on outside of that. So there are a bunch of subtexts. Which subtext do you guys want to discuss first?
Well, I think the environmentalist message sort of comes as a result of the message about consumerism and capitalism more broadly. So I think it would make more sense to start there if no one objects.
Sounds good to me.
I object. I don't care.
Well, this tryout is not going well.
We will replace you with Grandin. Apparently he's waiting.
Well, I don't believe in dualism, so I feel like I need to be difficult in some way to just bring Billy's essence back into it.
Fair.
So you're welcome. You may continue.
Should I lead us off then?
You can. Go right ahead.
Okay. So the book I referenced earlier, it was One Dimensional Man, Studies in the Ideology of Advanced Industrial Society by Herbert Marcuse, Marcuse. It was released in the 1960s, very subversive at the time, probably even more subversive now, but a very important book. I recommend everybody reads it if they hadn't. But one of Herbert Marcuse's big points in here is the irrational. No, wait, I have it backwards. The rational irrationality of the capitalist system. And I think you can see this playing out in Little Inferno, right? So if you don't question the overall system, the life in Little Inferno works perfectly, right? If your goal is to burn things, thereby gaining money and stamps, the corporation in Little Inferno does its job excellently, right? And this is Marcuse's point, that capitalism works in its rational irrationality. If you don't question the overall goals of the system operates incredibly well. It does what it's designed to do. And I think that's what Little Inferno is, at least initially here, trying to point at, is that
you cut
operates
out
incredibly well.
You cut out.
What
was
out?
that? You said, so you cut out right when you said, yeah, you're back now. Right when you said, if you don't examine any closer, it makes a lot of sense, but.
Okay, if you don't examine any closer, it makes perfect sense. But the problem comes in once you start asking, okay, are the goals of this system rational? Right? So if you don't ask yourself, okay, does it make sense to just burn stuff? Then it makes perfect sense. But the second you try to step outside this system, that's when it becomes problematic.
Yes, and the game calls immediate attention to these things in the very first catalog you get. One of the first object you can burn, I think, is someone else's. Actually, I think it's a
no, it's a poster.
It's a poster, a Little Inferno commemorative poster. Mm-hmm. But within the first 5 objects you get an object called your pictures. or maybe it's the first 10. It's in the first catalog. And once you click on your pictures, it will actually go to your photo folder in your computer and call up all of your pictures. And then you can order your pictures to burn. And up until that point, the game makes a point of making all the things that you're burning either a cast-aside object, like blocks for a baby or something, or something that belongs to someone else, like someone else's credit card or someone else's family portrait. But almost immediately, it starts turning what is kind of a funny, it's other people's things. Why would I care? And it makes it personal, not just to the character you're playing, but to the person who is playing it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it immediately makes clear at that point the critique it's getting at. And right around this time, the game also sends you a letter from the woman who owns the company that gives you the Little Inferno instructional video. And that video is one of the bleakest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that video is grim.
It starts off really happy, though.
Yes.
Takes a dark turn very quickly.
It starts off with two children who are singing, Little Inferno just for me, and they're just so happy. They've got their Little Inferno home entertainment kit, and they're like, oh, we can burn things for fun. Like, I think the sales pitch is like, oh, you've got all these old toys. Aren't they boring? But you know what's fun? Fire. Burn them. And then the kids throw their toys in there, their old pictures, and then eventually the fire gets huge, and there's just a kid screaming.
Yeah.
And then the two kids who are super excited, their heads explode.
Mm-hmm. As they do.
And then they say, be careful with your Little Inferno home entertainment kit. So the game makes very clear very early on, like the goals, even in the instructional video, everyone's going to die. The end result of this is everyone's dead.
But then they also go, like, before they explode, I think, they go into, like, a deep thing of, like, it has been snowing for years since anyone can remember. Yes. So the only way to keep warm and survive is by burning all your stuff.
Yep.
So, Gina, this was earlier. I don't think this made it in the podcast, but you asked what our favorite pun was from the game. Yes. And reflecting on it now, I think my favorite pun is every time they say, each day was colder than the last one, somebody always responds, but that can't go on forever, which is optimistic in the sense like, oh, pretty soon it'll get warmer. Or it's just like, no, eventually the world's going to end. Like, this can't go on forever.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible as you keep going on. There's these letters that come. Early on, Sugar Plumps is just like sending you letters about figuring out how the Little Inferno works. Like, she'll ask you for things to burn, or like she'll see a bug and she'll ask you for an exterminator to kill the bug. But as it goes on, and she figures out that she's your neighbor and like your friends ostensibly, and it's kind of messed up. You can't save anything that you get in this game. Your inventory is finite, and every spot in your inventory you put something that you care about. Means you can't buy more things to burn, which locks away like important elements of the gameplay. Yeah, you can't make combos if you don't have space.
It's one of the most explicit sort of articulations of the necessary planned obsolescence in consumer society. Like, in order to get people to continually consume, you need to get rid of these old things somehow. Typically, the strategy is to present something as the newest and best, right? Like, you have to have this new thing. The old thing's crap compared to it. But in this version, it's like, no, just burn it. You get rid of it entirely, and then you're forced to buy new things because you've burnt all the old ones.
And, important to mention, everything you burn gives you more money than you spent to buy it.
Yeah.
So every object is worth more as ash than it is as an object, which I feel like just even more explicitly shows the absurdity of the situation, that this specific and it is capitalist. Like, you're buying things. There's buying and selling. It's a toy, a consumer good. It shows that this wheel keeps on turning, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, this is just to bring out more books. So Galbraith, this economist, makes a similar sort of point in The Affluent Society, that there's been this sort of fetishization of production itself, without any regard for what's being produced. And here you can see that as well, right? Like, it doesn't really matter what this corporation's making. You're just burning it in the first place. What's important is that they make it, and then you get money to purchase more and continue this cycle, regardless of any sort of intrinsic benefit to the cycle itself.
Exactly. And so I feel like this also kind of makes the gameplay kind of rote, because once you realize that the next catalog will have other kind of gags. There are a lot of gag items that have unique properties that are kind of funny to see. Like, there's a mini moon that when you burn it, when you put it in your furnace, it will attract everything to it because it's got a gravitational pull. There's bugs that when you burn them, they explode into, like, colorful smoke. There's a can of snakes that when you burn it, you think it's going to be like a fun, like, the little toy party snakes pop out, but instead it's syringes. That pop out?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was... No, okay. So I guess it also comes out of the what's it called, protein powder?
Yes. That is
okay,
also syringes.
I didn't realize that
It's just they're all
the
syringes.
snakes were also syringes.
Yes. So
Silly me.
there's a bunch of gags, but the later items that you get so there are multiple catalogs. There's like 8 catalogs. The first few items in every catalog give you about the same amount of money as even the first objects in the first catalog. It's only the later objects in the catalogs that give you more money, and they all are roughly equivalent. So it's not like the later catalogs are better items. They're just different items. So there's not as much of a sense of progression, Well, it doesn't feel like you're building up.
Yeah.
There is a sun.
In the last one. Which,
There's
if they have just like a mini
one.
sun, also that's true. But if they have the capabilities of making mini suns, don't you think they should have used that for, better purposes than
Like nuclear fusion, like infinite clean energy?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Well, look, we can bring in one-dimensional man here, too. So supposing they did create nuclear fusion, that would probably eliminate the need for labor, and labor is the source of profit. So there's this continual tension in technological advance where you want things to become easier, but you can't eliminate labor because then you eliminate profit.
Does this thing mention anything about, like, interpersonal connections? Whatever you're talking about, what was it? I'm sorry.
One-dimensional man.
Yes, that. Because I feel like that's also a part of this, but I don't know if they also mention it in that.
No,
their take on it is.
Their whole point is that there really aren't interpersonal connections anymore.
Oh, that's nice.
They've been eliminated by these sort of interactions that are determined by this system. Yeah, it's not optimistic. It's grim. Very grim.
Really sounds great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read it.
It's only like 400 pages. It's breezy.
Oh, sounds good.
Oh, like Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Noel, where do you wanted to discuss the interpersonal relationships in this game a little bit?
Sure. No, I was just asking about that. We could talk about that now, but if you guys are finished with the capitalism part, unless you guys want to elaborate further on that.
Well, we'll go back and forth. I feel like it'll come up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, back to kind of what Gina was saying about how you have to burn anything, like pretty much everything, like the letters and stuff that you get. Like literally anything that has any type of sentimental value is the first thing to go.
Mm.
And I was actually playing it with someone, and I got the free hug, and I was like, we should keep it because like maybe we'll use it for something. And they were just like, no, why? Let's just burn it. And I was like, but personal connections and like interactions and stuff. And they're like, nah, burn it. And I was like, okay, no, I'm keeping it. And I kept it for like a little while, and then I needed more room, and I was like, all right, fine, free hugs, get out of here.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning almost all of the items that you get as kind of mementos of people. Like early on, Sugar Plumps, your neighbor, sends you a picture of herself. And I tried to keep that for a while, and again, I also bumped up against the inventory limit and tossed it in the fire. And once you do that, almost all of the items that are supposed to be coming from other people, in other games, like when you get those personal items or those specific, kind of like legendary items, they're worth a lot. But almost every item they're worth nothing. They're worth, in terms of like money in the game.
Mm-hmm.
they are worth almost nothing. You would get more money from burning a bug that's...
Yeah, I was going to say, killing
you.
the spiders gets you more money than burning a letter from your neighbor, who is slowly going insane.
Well, they're not commodities, right? Like, a personal memory has no exchange value because it's personal. Nobody else wants it. So, I mean, if we're thinking about capitalist circulation, it would make sense that these things are basically worthless if we're thinking of an exchange economy.
Yeah, and it says a lot about this game's design and how it kind of makes you complicit in this insidious system that I think, Pete, did you also try to keep something at some point?
I did. I tried. I honestly did manage to keep the free hug the whole time just because I knew what it was eventually going to do from doing research on the game prior to playing it. You get at the end, you go and you meet with the CEO.
Yeah, and she asks about the free hug.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you got that coupon?" And if you have it, she'll give you a hug. It's very, very unsatisfying.
Aw. Now I feel bad burning it.
Yeah. She doesn't care.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I know, because I told her, and she was like, well.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, well, you had it.
Are there any other items that do that if you keep them for the entire game?
No, that's the only one I think that has any sort of effect.
Yeah. So
you do have to, like, remember things that Sugar Plumps has told you, but you don't necessarily need the letters.
She also tells you
if
you don't do it fast enough.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to remember. Yeah, so it's even that, like, the one kind of human interaction that you have, you're supposed to remember, like, the 4 items that you give her throughout the game. And in actuality, you don't have to remember because she will tell you at some point. Like, after she sends, like, 3 letters in a row. One is like, oh, there are 4 items, you need to burn them together and something will happen. You'll remember they're, like, special items. And then the second one is like, you gave them to me. And then the third one was like, okay, these are what the items are. And so it's crazy that, like, even the smallest thing, they won't just, like, leave it up to you to figure it out because I'm guessing this game just assumes that you're not going to remember because it wasn't important.
Yeah.
I did.
And it makes you burn these things to have access to your full inventory, and it makes clear that in burning these objects, there's nothing, you're not gaining anything gameplay-wise except access to space. Space is more valuable than memories.
Basically. Well, you can buy more stuff with your space and then get more money.
Yeah.
Obviously,
to buy more
that's
stuff.
Important.
Exactly. And so I feel like all this burning gets us to the environmental question because this world is cold. It is dying.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
One more thing. Am I spoiling everything?
Go right ahead.
Cool?
Spoil away.
We've been spoiling everything. It doesn't matter.
Just making sure. So, what's her name? Sugar
Plumps.
Sugar Plumps.
Sugar Plumps?
Sugar Plumps basically slowly, like, disintegrates into madness. Because at first she's just excited about the Inferno and burning things and all that stuff. And then she slowly is like, oh my god, the fire is so, like, all consuming. And, like, what if I just walked into the fire? What if I made the fire bigger than the little Inferno? And then there's, like, a big explosion. And your drapes that she sent you catch on fire. And what else happens? Just, like, your room shakes because she's your neighbor.
Yep.
And then the weatherman comes on with an announcement that basically someone died and someone's house exploded. And then it shows you a picture of Sugar Plump. And then, like, 2 seconds later, it's just back to the, like, happy music, like, okay, go burn some things.
Yeah.
And that was such, like, a stark, like, difference in tone so quickly that that struck me.
Yeah,
that
and
was
I think
like, okay, someone died, moving on.
Yeah, the Weatherman interludes, I think a lot of them are disruptive in that way. Because the Weatherman, at first, he starts off pretty happy-go-lucky, like, oh, it's cold up here, every day's a little bit colder, but it won't go on forever, surely it
it's
can't.
weird, huh?
The weatherman in the balloon above the chimneys.
Above the smokestacks.
Above the
city.
smokestacks. Yep. And as it goes on, like, it's clear that people are burning more and more things. And eventually he says there's wind coming. There's a gigantic windstorm, but the wind's not coming from east or west. It's coming from below. And so the fires that people are burning are accelerating so much that it is blowing a gust of wind directly up at him.
And then you just see, like, the coughing, gagging, kind of.
Yeah.
However,
yes.
that is written out.
Yeah. So it just keeps escalating. It becomes very clear that this is a catastrophe of man's own making. And I feel like Sugar Plumps brings up some of these contradictions, like some of these issues, because she starts seeing through it. She starts questioning, hey, why don't I see other people?
Yeah, like, why don't you turn around?
Yeah, why doesn't my
head
head
Have you tried?
move, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, why doesn't my head move? And the game does not let you move. Like, your character can't move. Why don't we see other people? Like, do you ever wonder about whether we should be burning all these things?
Yeah.
She starts asking questions that I feel like are meta-commentary on gaming itself or entertainment consumption, because a lot of what we're seeing in this game is the burning of material objects, but not cultural ones necessarily. But cultural artifacts are, in some ways, in a capitalist society, just as fungible. Just because something
absolutely
is produced, just because it's a movie or a play or a book, piece of literature, we give it, oftentimes we will treat those objects with a bit more reverence than we would a stuffed animal. But this game kind of starts drawing the line that these things all come from the same place, or they're treated the same way by this society.
Yeah, this is a lot we were talking about when we did, God, what's that stupid-ass fanfic I had to read?
Oh, you mean My Immortal?
My Immortal, yeah, that incredible
the
work
Harry
of
Potter
literature.
fanfiction.
Yeah, that's the same thing we were talking about during our endurance run for My Immortal.
Yep.
I think I missed that part.
It's okay.
I feel like I'm missing out here.
Yeah, I mean, this game does have a couple of, like, games and things you can burn, but largely...
It wants to be meta. Oh, that was my favorite one. It was, like, the meta combo.
Yeah, the meta combo was pretty good. Burning the two things related to Little Inferno.
Yep.
But Sugar Plum's starting to question the amount of time she's spending with the fire, I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And so there's sort of an interesting epistemological thing going on here, too. Whereas, like, knowledge of the combos makes you better at the game, right? So there's an incentive to learn these combos insofar as you can get more money, right? But that sort of focus on combo knowledge distracts from any sort of question of, okay, what sort of external knowledge should I need? What questions about the outside of the system are relevant to ask, right? So there's this idea that, okay, if we focus on basically positive or empiricist knowledge, right, knowledge about what is, we forget to ask questions about, okay, what could or should be instead. And that's happening here with the combos.
Yes, and the game, in focusing so much on the combos, and once it's revealed to you that these combos exist, the game becomes almost exclusively about finding combos, at least in terms of driving the gameplay forward.
Yep.
Once you gain this knowledge, all of a sudden the individual objects that you're burning stop having significance unto themselves. They start becoming ingredients in the combos.
Yep.
And so I feel like a lot of the gags and jokes of the objects cease to be quite as funny or as interesting when all you actually care about is finding, okay, this one's called Springtime, flower plus clock. And the first time you burn the flower and see that the flower packet bursts into a bunch of flowers when it's set on fire, that's kind of weird. Or like the gag with the syringes in the
and the snake.
In the snakes, or the cat that poops when you
that
light on
cat
fire.
Was used so many times.
Yes, it is used quite a lot.
They were obsessed with the cat. Kept going back to the cat and having to burn all its poop again.
But all of these sight gags start giving way, as soon as you're starting to focus on the combos, and the game gets you to that place very quickly.
Yeah.
So I found that I kind of became disinterested in playing the game pretty quickly because it becomes kind of rote, and were it not for the story, I would have stopped.
Yeah, the objects become reduced exclusively for their exchange value, as opposed to any sort of intrinsic use value. And the medium of circulation just happens to be fire, as opposed to commerce.
And I feel like the way that it doles out stamps early on very rapidly and just more stamps than you could ever even use. And then by the end of the game, the wait times on objects are so long that you kind of get into this place where you're just getting very impatient, and the stamps become all they are is just accelerating how quickly you can play the game. But you get impatient; it addles you in a way. At least it did for me. Like once you know that you can have something instantly, why wait 60 seconds for it? Even if there's no gameplay ramification.
Yeah, and also in the beginning, I was like, oh, I need to, like, reserve them for when I, like, really need something. But I was doing that a lot. Like, I was like, oh, I should wait on getting this until, like, I know the combo, or I should wait on buying new things until, like, I know that I can use them for something. Which, like, in the beginning, I was just playing with them and, like, seeing what cool things they did. And then I, like, didn't care. I was like, why should I buy this thing when it doesn't do anything for me?
Exactly.
Which is a horrible way of looking at it.
Yeah. And what are you saving it for? There's never a thing that you need, like, instantly. The game never presents you at the moment where it's like, oh, this is time sensitive. It never becomes time sensitive. It's always about just how quickly can I get my fix on lighting these things on fire. And it's amazing how, for such a simple system, I felt that too. I mean, Pete, did you start asking yourself the same questions? Like, there were objects I felt like I could buy, but I just didn't because I couldn't come up with what the pun was to burn it with.
Yeah, there seemed like it's not collecting for collecting's sake. Like, I think all of us, Billy might just be the purest expression of this, fall into that video game trap where you're like, all right, I need to get all these so I have all these things. Here, there's no reason for it because they all get burned in anyway. So it's like, all right, why would I bother?
The only thing is, you have to have bought and, like, gotten shipped to you all of the things in one catalog to move on to the next catalog. Yeah. So that's literally the only reason to, like, use half of this. To buy, like, at least, like, a fifth of all the catalog things.
Yeah. There's some objects that just don't have combinations. You just buy them to buy them.
Yeah, because you have to. Because man told you to. Or the woman, I guess. She's a lady.
Yep. And then the end of the game, you put together this secret combo, and it causes your house to burst into flames.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you do. Which, honestly, did she know that? Like, I'm wondering if Sugar Plumps?
Sugar Plumps?
You guys are, like, her cheerleaders.
Because she's great.
She is great. But I wonder if she, like, knew that and she was just playing us the whole time.
Yeah, I guess. She definitely figured it out.
Yeah.
She does.
But, like, how do you figure out that, like, something is going to explode your home?
I mean, what were the ingredients? It was, like, sunglasses, fireflies.
The exterminator.
And
a magnet.
Yeah, so it's not like it was like, it was the nuclear bomb. Like now that you say it.
Yeah, it's very specific, but otherwise not that useful items.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what to make of it, but she breaks you free, essentially. And once you get out, you can kind of... Don't you walk around a little bit?
Yeah.
Walk.
You talk to...
You talk to the postman. The mail is thriving in this world.
The mail is thriving, and also, he's like, oh, yeah, hi, nice to see you. Like, oh, I have a letter for you. Hold on. He's like, how do you know who I am? He's like, because I've been delivering stuff to you, like, every hour.
I walk to your home and put things next to you.
How do you not notice this? But that was so daunting. That, like, your character has no idea who this person is, and it's the person, like he's been walking into your home and placing things directly next to you.
Yeah, just for like 10 years, you've never turned your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Terrifying.
This game is dark as hell.
Yeah, it's grim.
But it kind of becomes a different game for a little bit until you go to the Little Inferno like boardroom.
Yeah, the headquarters.
Yeah, but
Well,
I mean, the world is not saved.
No,
No.
you opt out. Like that's the happy ending. Is you're just like, all right, peace, and you bounce.
And then, well, honestly, what do you guys think happened to him? Because he just like got with he's like not got with, that sounds
They
weird.
just don't make that.
But he
This
just
game's
got on
deeply
the weather
erotic.
balloon
Well,
with
like,
the weatherman.
supposedly him and Sugar Plumps ended up on a beach somewhere, according to her letter.
Well, I know she ended up on a beach somewhere.
Right.
But we just kind of went out into the sky full of smoke, which can't be healthy.
No.
Well,
So
I mean, more
I feel
healthy
like
than
we probably ended up dying anyway.
it's probably more healthy than igniting the mini nuke, which I did multiple times.
How many times,
The
Non-zero.
the CEO just bounces too. It's where it's saying she gets in a spaceship and takes off.
Yeah.
Which, is timely considering billionaires are buying property in New Zealand left and right for
Yeah.
when our system inevitably collapses.
Yeah. Because she has been a main factor in causing the air pollution and all of the horrible things that are happening and basically ruining the planet. And then instead of dealing with those problems, she's like, okay, I saved you from freezing to death. You're welcome. I'm going to go now.
Deuces.
So.
She's just said, if that had just been like the last line, she just deuces.
But I mean, there's a commentary there too, also with how she has made all of this money on the backs of people basically burning the world into the ground, and then
Okay.
uses that as her. I mean, I
escape
can't say.
hatch.
Hello,
not a-
oil companies.
Yeah, it's not a golden parachute, but you get the metaphor. There's a metaphor there, I'm sure. I can't think of it right now.
Après-moi the deluge.
French, the deluge.
Yep.
Sure.
So, I think that's all I have on Little Inferno. Is there anything else you both wanted to cover?
I think it's just worth asking just in relation to, what was the other one I picked? Papers, Please. That, like, again, good story, interesting, a lot to say, but it raises a question of how much sort of boredom can be a gameplay mechanic. Like, because in Papers, Please, it was relevant insofar as, like, you were a bureaucrat fulfilling this function within this political structure. Here it's relevant because really it makes a claim about consumerism being ultimately a cycle of doing the same things over and over with no sort of real productive activity. The term Adorno would use is pseudo-activity. It seems like things are happening, but they're really not. And like the boredom's purposeful, it's relevant. It's just tough to make a video game where like boredom's a central mechanic.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I've actually played a game called Trash Panic, which has the almost same gameplay loop as Little Inferno.
Right.
You've got trash that you're dumping into this giant dumpster and then lighting it on fire to maintain your trash so that, well, you're trying to fit all of these objects into your trash, and you need to burn some objects and get rid of them so you can make more room to put more trash in, because the goal is to get as much trash into this can as possible without any spilling over. And that is way more of a game. It's very Japanese, and it's way more straightforwardly fun, but there's way less of this introspection. So Little Inferno has stuck with me because this game's story and message made me think. Trash Panic, while a great name, the game does not necessarily stick. I don't know if I had told anyone about Trash Panic if they would have believed me that game existed.
I mean, I barely believed you when you told me about what Little Inferno was.
Yeah.
Like, that can't be it.
Yeah,
You have to
and
keep
it's
burning things the whole time.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
whole thing is burning things. But I feel like there's also, kind of raises the question. Games with very simple gameplay loops like this usually do not have this many layers going on with their story.
No.
Usually you can have some games that are very narrative focused and they are visual novels, or they might have, bisections in their storytelling where partially you're playing a game and then there's cutscenes. This game, outside of reading a couple of letters, it's pretty much just this gameplay speaking for itself.
Yeah. Anytime I can reference we're probably up to 3 or 4 mid-20th century economists, I'm happy. So this game gave me more than I even expected. I know.
Yeah, and I think this game really raises the question, when you play an indie game or you play a short game that does not have a story, now, not every game needs to have a story, but it is not an excuse. You can make a compelling narrative or a compelling critique even with a gameplay system that is this simple and this repetitive. There are ways to put message into your moment-to-moment gameplay, and it really just takes clever execution. This game does not have the most amazing writing I've ever read.
It was pretty hilarious.
It's very funny, but it's
not like when he was like, "Oh, you just want me to walk off this cliff into the scary nothingness?" Yeah, sure, sounds great.
He's just like, "No, don't do that."
Yeah, I mean the writing's clever, but it's not like you wouldn't confuse it for Shakespeare.
No.
I would hope not. I would hope that you wouldn't confuse a lot of things for Shakespeare.
Shakespeare would be better with sugar plumps in it.
So true.
Yeah, I mean,
that sounds like
I was really surprised.
To be honest.
Yeah, I was really surprised during Hamlet when Sugar Plums showed up. It's like, that's not an Italian name. But she really makes the third act sing.
That is
Hamlet's not Italian.
Did I say Hamlet and not Romeo and Juliet?
He's the Prince of Denmark.
Wrong play. Sugar Plums clearly is the Ophelia of this play, though.
Aww.
Fair enough. My faith.
But I think that this game is an example that even with short games, with small budgets, with small hour counts, you can do something creative and do something impactful regardless. Like, there are ways to cleverly design your game to make all of these things happen.
Yeah, I think it was a good game made for both a person that just wants to play a game and solve puzzles, and also a person that wants to enjoy a game for its nuances.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it depends on how you want to play it. Like, if you want to just, you could just click all of the letters and not pay attention to them and not even care about any of the context that's happening and all the messages that are being sent through the gameplay and the world. Or you can get caught up in it. And that's really up to the player themselves. But I would say, if you're going to play it, you should get into it, because it's a really cool story.
I think the more familiar you are with just sort of the general critique of capitalism, right? Like, you don't have to go reading through the Frankfurt School, but the more you understand about, okay, here's why capitalism doesn't work the way we necessarily think it does, the more you'll get out of this game.
Yes.
Yeah, but even if it's not, I feel like you can look at it and not be, not have any knowledge about the dangers of capitalism and all that stuff and still find meaning in it. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's the environmentalism questions going on. Absolutely. There's just sort of general consumption questions. I think you're right.
There's the lack of human connection.
There's meta-critique about video gaming.
Yeah, so it has something for everyone, not exclusively the economists.
Not exclusively communists.
You don't want to go red.
Communists. It has a lot for communists. Yeah, this game, it's
We're
kind of
get a
amazing.
Call from Homeland Security or something. Like, listen, we hear you've been agitating.
This is how you get famous. It's on the way.
One arrest at a time. Yeah, it is kind of amazing how dense this game is for something that's only 2.5 hours and with not a ton of dialogue. So I'm really impressed. I hadn't played this game in a while, and it holds up, and I did not necessarily expect that. So
Actually,
thank you for
if
picking it, Pete.
anyone plays this game and wants to go through it without doing any of the combos, I want to know if you can get through the game without playing the combos and just like go through it.
Just
So if anyone
learning
wants
the
to do that,
items. You probably can.
I would think so, but I'm not sure.
Because you
I
get
didn't
more.
try.
You get more money regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it always goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if it goes up enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, it always does. You always get a net profit, and they'll just keep sending bugs at you until you get enough money.
Yeah, it might take a while, but you could probably do it.
Yeah, and then the only thing you can't do is escape.
Fair.
Right, you have to play minimum one combo.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, true.
Unless someone finds something. If you put 10 nukes in there.
10 nukes, the fireworks, the sun.
The sun.
See what
10
happens.
nukes and a sun, and that gets you out too. It's a hot combo. But it's...
Yeah,
So.
We get it, Gino.
Nice. Good work, Gino.
There we go.
Don't
There's that
encourage
positive
him.
affirmation. All right. So, next time it is my pick.
It is.
And I have picked a game.
No way.
Almost like
Is it a
Billy
video game?
parachutes in and just, we're playing this Metroidvania now.
Oh, no. This time we're playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Nope, sorry. We'll save that. We'll wait till Billy comes back. He gets to enjoy Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
we should just do Ocarina of Time for like 6 weeks straight before he comes back.
That would be the most savage thing. Instead, we will not be doing that. Instead, we will be doing a game that has a mobile version that I can play because I need to be playing mobile versions for a little bit. So, I have picked Threads of Fate, a.k.a. Do Prism, for the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
It is a Square Enix, or Square action role-playing game, a la Brave Fencer Musashi, except not bad. Except not bad.
That's a key distinction.
Yes. Except not bad. It is.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
It's average. It's not bad. But the thing that is interesting about the game is that it stars two main characters, and you pick which main character you would like to play.
Is
and
one
each
a
of them
lady?
Yes.
One
One is
is,
a lady.
yes.
One is a princess named Mint. And
Why she
one
gotta
is
be a princess? Why can't she be a warrior?
Well, she's out for world domination.
Sexism.
She's
What?
a magician warrior, and she wants to take over the world.
Perfect.
And then the second character is a mysterious boy named Rue.
I bet he's the secret hero here, and the woman's the villain. This is inappropriate.
That's the thing. You pick which one you want to play as.
Yeah, but
Well,
why
at the
does the
beginning of
woman
the
gotta
game.
be the villain?
Well,
We'll talk about
you
this
just
next
made
week.
that up. You can't.
She's not the
Oh,
villain.
really? She's trying to take over the world, and she's not the villain.
That'd be
I
like
mean,
me
there's-
saying, like, why does Brew have to be racist? Like, I've never played it. I don't know if he is.
But
Look.
okay, if someone introduces a character with "they want to take over the world," what
I
is your
didn't. I introduced it
assumption?
with she's a princess.
Yeah,
and
and
then
then you
she's-
went further into her character.
Because you said, why does she have to be a princess? That wasn't enough for you.
Guys, get ready for this next week.
Doesn't she have any ambition? God.
She wants to take over the world. Oh, she's evil now. So we will be playing. At least finish the game with one of them, though you can finish the game with both. And there is the
How
game
long
wants
is
you
the
to.
game?
I think if you beat everything, it's probably around 10 hours.
Okay.
But if you want to just play through one, I will play through both halves and finish the game completely. But I'm giving you the option to only see half of it because it's interesting that the game offers you that choice. It is a design choice that very few games make, where they actually have different stories. They have different gameplay. And I think that it's a pretty interesting game to look back on. So, next time we'll be playing Threads of Fate, a.k.a. Do Prism in Japan, for all of our Japanese listeners. So, if you want to get in touch with the show before next time, you can do so at deeplistenspod at deeplistens.libsyn.com. You can hit up our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast at gmail.com. Thank you, Pete.
Oh, always a pleasure, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did.
Thank you, Noelle.
Thank you, guys. Can't wait for next week. Get ready for a lot of feminist ranting.
Why does Mint have to be a princess?
We'll
answer these
I'm
questions
just
and more.
saying.
I will
If she's the
reread
villain,
Gender Trouble.
there will be hell to
Preparation.
pay.
This is going to be a
Yeah.
real Anna and Elsa situation. I can feel it. All right. Till
Are you
next
gonna
time.
tell me to let it go?
Okay.
Get it, Gino? Get it?
Till next time. Peace.